Hello, everyone. We're back, Anonymous Addiction, deprogramming podcast. On this podcast, we're going to be getting into deprogramming, reprogramming, and creating our own programs. As everyone knows, if you check us out over on Anonymous Addiction, My Truth About AA, as Bobby sees a private group, you'll find all that beautiful information, how we can create our own programs, go beyond the addiction recovery trap industry, and freedom from addiction. No disease. We're powerful. And so we're going to get into the second. This is the second part of the family afterwards. This is Alcoholics Anonymous, Chapter 9. Chapter 9, which started on page 122. And now today we're on 131. And we're going to break down this chapter, which is the second part. If you check out the first part, we talked about how the society was manipulated and indoctrinated into the disease concept. First, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, alcoholics, alcoholism, disease. Then they had to go into the family and let the family know that they're diseased too, because it's a family disease. This is the creation of this. This was 1939 up into 2022. Just look at what has happened since then. Al-Anon was created many years ago by Lois Wilson, Bill's wife, and it was created 13 years later after this chapter, which was written in 1939. So 13 years later, Al-Anon was created by Lois, and it's all progression. To get the public and indoctrination of the medical and educational field, doctors, lawyers, courts, I don't care who it is, media, government, politics, to get them into. This is where the multi-billion-dollar industry really starts to unfold and develop, because the insurance, the medicalization of the recovery industry and the treatment centers. After the treatment centers, where do they send everybody? They send them to AA, NA, CA, MA, Marijuana Anonymous, OA, SA, Sex Anonymous. 12-step philosophy is just over and over. The books, the money that's made. Alcoholics Anonymous is the leading recovery cult program out there in the world. They got a foothold on it. And so let's get into it. I had it marked where, AA'd rather see your alcoholic, which is your husband or wife. They come into Alcoholics Anonymous. They give you this book, the family, the wife. They give you the book. The husband goes or the wife goes into Alcoholics Anonymous. Now they want to take over the family and have the family going into Alcoholics Anonymous and kind to be responsible and help their alcoholic to stay recovered through this daily reprieve for the rest of their lives. And they want you to be involved in it for the rest of your life also. Okay, so let's get into it. One more suggestion, they say. Let's have another suggestion. Nothing will help man who is off on a spiritual tangent so much as the wife who adopts the same spiritual program, making better practical use of it. So they want the wife to adopt the same program that the husband's in. They want the children eventually indoctrinate the family, about the disease concept. My daughter just told me the other day, she said, Dad, you were the one to kind of put it in my head about a disease concept. Yeah, and I was. This is like years and years and years ago. I'm talking when I first came in Alcoholics Anonymous 38 years ago. Yeah, I was indoctrinated, and I was helping indoctrinate other people at that time. And I'm not proud of it today, but yeah, I did that. Yeah, sure I did. And she was right, and I couldn't deny it. So the indoctrination system, family afterwards, it's getting the family feeling responsible. And these are the things that Bill and the program and really the puppet masters want the family to do, because, by force of circumstances, she has often obliged to treat father as a sick and wayward child. It's talking about during his addiction or her addiction, the husband or wife had to take over all the responsibilities. Okay, so the mother made all the plans, gave all the directions, when sober father usually obeyed. Thus mother, through no fault of her own, became accustomed to wearing the family trousers. She became the head of the household, or it was the other way around. The wife didn't do anything. She was drunk all the time. So now she's in the program, he's in the program. Everything is going to be great now, right? Okay. So now they talk about, be careful that could cause trouble, because naturally the husband wants to come back in. He's in AA now, he's strong, and he's a religious fanatic, and he's got God, and he's following a spiritual practice, and he wants to come in and he wants to do, he wants to get his responsibilities back. So the wife or the husband's going to get resentful about that. So it's saying, watch out for that. When he renews interest in such things, a feeling of jealousy may arise. Instead of developing new channels of activity for themselves, mother and children demand that they stay home and make up the deficiency. So it's saying that the husband or wife, if the wife goes out, now she comes back in and she's getting involved with other different things, the family gets jealous and says, you're never home, which in fact, the father or the wife, they won't hardly ever be home. They'll be in AA meetings all the time, 24/7. And then they're going to get back into their job and into making money again. You won't see them there either. Then they're either to get back into religious, maybe a church setting or something, and you won't see them, because Alcoholics Anonymous wants to consume, they take their identity and want to assume, look, you give your will and your life and your care over to AA. What do you have left? So it says, father will necessarily spend much time with other alcoholics, but this activity should be balanced. New acquaintances who know nothing of alcoholism. So the father or the mother is going to be involved in helping other alcoholics, because that's to be a trusted servant, to give back. It says you cannot keep it unless you give it away. So they wanted us to give it away, to keep it. And that's how we stay on the spiritual grounds, contingent upon a spiritual growth, lest we will surely drink and die. Through the family has no religious connections, they may wish to connect with or take membership in religious bodies. So you're going into AA, you're getting God there. It's another religion. It's like a church. And if you were involved with the church, they want you to go there too, if possible, with you and your family, and then still stay in AA, of course. It says, being possessed of a spiritual experience, the alcoholic will find he has much in common with the religious people. Being possessed of a spiritual experience. He may bring new hope and new courage to many priests, ministers, rabbis who give his all to minister to our troubled world. So they're saying, get involved with your churches too. Go back to church if you want to, but stay in AA. AA has to be first. If it's not, we will surely drink again. It says, so far as we are concerned, there is nothing obligatory about it. As non-denominational people, we cannot make up other people's minds. They're even saying they're a religion. They're a non-denominational. That's the code word for we're not Catholic. We're a Christian fellowship. They're a non-denominational. AA is a non-denominational church. Period. It's a non-denominational church that doesn't follow any particular doctrine, but it does follow God. Everything is God. But we ain't. Here's what they got. We aren't a glum lot. Remember when they put down their books, we're not a glum lot. That's where they got that from. Then it goes into the next big paragraph about having fun, being laughter, cheerful, playing. They go into, we are sure God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. But it is clear that we make our own misery. God didn't do that. Okay. Now about health. This is particularly interesting, and I'll mention this to my friend Ryan, who I do podcasts with My Rehab Cafe. He always asked about where it says in the big book about mental health. Here's something interesting. It says, but this does not mean that we disregard human health measures. God has abundantly supplied this world with fine doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, and practitioners of various kinds. Do not hesitate to take your health problems to such persons. Most of them give freely of themselves, that their fellows may enjoy great sound, mind, and body. Try to remember, through God has wrought miracles among us. We should never belittle a good doctor or psychiatrist. These services are often indispensable in treating a newcomer or in following up his case afterwards, which is good. I don't see it where Alcoholics Anonymous ever, I don't know, I don't see it. Maybe somebody can show me. I see a lot of falsehoods and kind of lies where Alcoholics Anonymous comes right out and says, don't use medication, don't use meds, you know what, don't trust your psychiatrist. And because Alcoholics Anonymous is for alcohol. They made NA for drugs, even though it's all the same. Matter of fact, as we know, it has nothing to do with alcohol and drugs. Okay. My problem, I believe our problems had nothing to do with alcohol and drugs. It was just something we did to relieve, it gave some relief, temporary relief. It wasn't the problem. As everyone knows, the problem is inside of us. We got to go seek self-discovery and self-analysis and find out the root causes. And it's not alcohol and drugs, that's for sure. I had this one page here. I don't know what happened to it. So that was for my friend Ryan. And to the wives, there's another mental health thing. To wives, here it is here. This contradicts it really. It says sometimes there are cases where alcoholism is complicated by other disorders. Way back then, it mentions disorders. A good doctor or psychiatrist can tell you whether these complications are serious. Now, that's another section that's on page 114 in To the Wives. Since this book was first published, here's the falsehood of it. This is Bill talking, 3 years sober. Since this book was first published, AA has released thousands of alcoholics from asylums and hospitals. In other words, asylums, institutions of every kind. The majority have never returned. The power of God goes deep. I have a problem with that, definitely. I have a problem with that. And so let's continue on the family afterwards. So I read that where it says God has wrought miracles. So here's another thing. Now, right after that paragraph, listen to this. This is how deep it is, right? They're real deep. One of the many doctors who had the opportunity of reading this book in manuscript form told us this. This is their medical kind of opinion that they gathered from the doctors. Use sweets. Were often helpful, of course, depending upon the doctor's advice. Use sweets. And that's why in every meeting you go to, there's a bowl of candy just passing around. They bring chocolates and candies and coffees. And back then we used to smoke, which is, I don't have a problem with it, but I'm just pointing this out. He thought all alcoholics should constantly have chocolate available for its quick energy value of time of fatigue. That's what they're getting from the doctor. He added that occasional and night of vigorous cravings aroused, which was satisfied by candy. I call it the candy man. This paragraph is about the candy man. Many of us have noticed a tendency to eat sweets and have found this practice beneficial. Okay, I don't have a problem with that, but that's all they got. That's all they got in nutritional health. I mean, this book is all about what Alcoholics Anonymous wants you to do, giving you suggestions what to do to help the alcoholic so their statistics can rise, so they can stay in and stay productive. Never once mentioning any solution. I don't recall mentioning any solution. Here's one. Get candy and eat chocolate. The candy man. And then they got their word on sex, a word about sex relations. Well, we talked about that the other day on a podcast, 13-step. Let me say something about that 13-step. You know, they come in from court, so we never know who's coming in. It could be a sex predator. It could be a rapist, you know, a narcissistic gaslighting predator. Because, and let's get real here. In Alcoholics Anonymous, we're a strange bunch in ourselves, okay? So we have our issues coming in. It doesn't have to be from court. We have our sex craziness issues, okay? Because let's admit it, alcohol and drugs. I know alcohol was a stimulant to kind of a sexual arousement to, I know men, probably women too, you know? And we have our, Alcoholics Anonymous members have their sexual deviant behavior. Okay, so I'm not saying it's all brought in from the courts. And let's also remember that this organization, which is made up of millions of people around the world, there's other organizations just like that have their problems with this sex 13-step thing too. So let's not discount, you know, Scientology and even religions. I don't care if it's Catholic. I don't care if it's Protestant, Methodist, Jehovah's Witness. I don't care. There's going to be problems with sexual deviant predators in there too. So beware. Beware, everyone beware, you know. And I'm not saying you're not going to go in Alcoholics Anonymous and not have sex, you know, because that's what happens. You know, boy meets girl, girl meets boy on the campus, in the rehab, or in Alcoholics Anonymous. And hey, I got stories about that. And one day my daughter will come on a podcast and tell some of her stories about it. Okay, so alcohol is so sexually stimulated to some men or women that they have overindulged. Yeah, I just said that. See, I agree with that. Here's something here. Look, the couples are accustomedly dismayed to find that when drinking is stopped, the man tends to be impotent. His drive goes down, but you know, here they are, sex therapists. They're going to be a sex therapist, and with two sentences, they're going to tell you all about your sex problem. Unless the reason is understood, there may be another emotional upset. There should be no hesitancy in consulting a doctor or psychiatrist if the condition persists. We do not know of many cases where this difficulty lasts long, but which is good. They're saying there that, look, don't hesitate to check out your doctor or your psychiatrist. You know, if there could be a problem. I don't see a problem with that. You know, Alcoholics Anonymous, this book is copied. There's so many, there's psychology, Carl Jung's, you know, philosophy, psychological philosophy is in here. There's priests, there's rabbis, there's success motivational speaking stuff. There's Napoleon Hill stuff in here. This is borrowed. Like on the 11-step prayer, all the prayers are borrowed. They're not Alcoholics Anonymous. the prayer of Francis of Assisi is a big prayer that I just heard someone quote at the bottom. That's not AA. Why do we even have to mention AA? That's a religious prayer. And I talked about that on my podcast on the, in the big book about that. So they talk about sex. Here's the alcoholic may find it hard to reestablish friendship or relations with his children. I know people that still, after 20 years, don't even talk to their kids because of them, Here we come into Alcoholics Anonymous or CANA or any of these 12-step programs, Al-Anon, Alateen, and we're becoming spiritual. And we got this thing down pat, right? So we're spiritual now. One addiction to another. Look in your groups or go out when you're out with people. I hung with people all the time. We trade addictions. We call it habits. I call it habits. We trade habits. Okay. Some people come in to Alcoholics Anonymous, they stop drinking and they raise their hand, I'm alcoholic and I'm living a spiritual life. And then they go out and cheat on their wives because that has nothing to do. I'm not drinking, right? They go gambling. They're still into a lot of different craziness. So we trade one addiction for another. So we're so spiritual though. And we'll go out and do road rage, anger. Me, especially I was very angry. I had a lot of anger. And we could become just addicted to Alcoholics Anonymous. And people will say, that's okay, we're not drinking. Well, to me, it's not okay because you're losing your freedom. Because you got to give your will and your life over to the care the rest of your life and recruit others. That doesn't sound like a very good proposition. They cannot seem to forgive and forget. And where is that going? The young minds were impressionable while he was drinking. Without saying so, they may cordially hate him for what he has done. Yeah, they're gonna have resentments for a long time. That's okay. They may not forgive. That's okay. Or they probably will in their time. They cannot seem to forgive and forget. Yeah, they can. Okay. That may hang on for months, long after their mother has accepted dad's new way of living and thinking. If you think for 1 second that your wife or husband or spouse, grandmother, grandfather, or your child is going to go into Alcoholics Anonymous, stop drinking, because remember I said that alcohol and drugs is just a symptom. And if you think they're not going to still have all the crazy, matter of fact, I found that I had more crazy experiences, okay? Because Alcoholics Anonymous in its 164 pages does not give us any solutions. The only solution is God. It says it in A, B, and C in how it works. We're powerless. No human power could relieve our alcoholism, and God could if he were sought, So atheist, agnostic, they start their own secular meetings. I don't buy that. They're just still worshiping the hierarchy of Alcoholics Anonymous, and Alcoholics Anonymous is benefiting by it and preaching it further into the world, the 12-step philosophy. This 12-step thing, copying it and, changing it, even by changing it, we're still worshiping the authority of Alcoholics Anonymous. Let's see here. Whether the family goes on a spiritual basis or not, the alcoholic member has to if he would recover. No matter if he's going, he's got to be there. Okay? He or she's got to be there. You got to just, you just got to accept it. They're going to be there for life. The others must be convinced of his new status beyond the shadow of a doubt. There's another must. The wife or kids must be convinced of his status beyond the shadow of a doubt. They gotta buy into this disease, alcoholism, alcoholic, for the rest of their life. They got to buy into it. If they don't, here's a case in point. Let's see. His wife is one of those persons who really feels there is something rather sinful about these accommodations. So she nags, and her intolerance finally threw him into a fit of rage. He got drunk. See how the little story, they got a little paragraph here. Here is a case in point. Seeing this and meaning to be helpful, his wife commenced to admonish him about it. He admitted he was overdoing these things, but frankly said that he was not ready to stop. His wife is one of those persons who really feels there is something rather sinful about those accommodations. One of our friends is a heavy smoker and a coffee drinker. So one of our friends, so they go, we go in Alcoholics Anonymous, and back in my days, all we did was smoke and drink, drinking coffee and smoking, man. Who's the coffee maker? You got 3 gigantic coffee makers filled with decaf and coffee and not much cakes and cookies and candies. And we were smoking like a storm, and ashtrays all the way, and who cleaned the ashtrays, Oh, but don't nag him about that, because if you do, he may go into a fit of anger and he may get drunk. I don't know what Bill was. I know what Bill was thinking. He was thinking of just promoting this book and thinking that he's going to get the family indoctrinated. And this is where, though he is now a most effective member of Alcoholics Anonymous, he still smokes and drinks coffee, but neither his wife nor anyone else stands in judgment. This thing is like, it gives false hope. Most of this is like fake. It doesn't give the true spectrum of reality in any of this book, especially to the wives and afterwards, and we're going to get into the employees. It doesn't give the true spectrum. First of all, it was written in 1939. We understand that it's antiquated, but shit, they're still reading it today. And they haven't changed nothing in the big book, and they're still selling them like crazy. That doesn't make sense. Sooner or later, you agnostics and you secular and you atheists that keep on staying in the pyramid, you'll see they'll change. They'll make these subtle changes, just like they put out 2 pamphlets for you, and they wrote this big tent. They put out a little book for the atheists and agnostics to kind of satisfy them. And if you think that you're changing anything, you're not changing nothing. You could do this. You could create your own secular community without Alcoholics Anonymous. The only reason why the secular and agnostic community stays with Alcoholics Anonymous is for promotion themselves, because they don't have the courage to lead Alcoholics Anonymous, millions and millions of people and meetings, thousands and thousands of meetings all over the country and all over the world. There's power in numbers, and they want to, and agnostics and atheists, they're writing their books, they're writing all their material, they're creating their books, they're just making Alcoholics Anonymous bigger and more powerful. So please don't, if you want to start a secular, talk about secular serenity or secular recovery or secular anything, do it on your own. Don't mention the 12 steps at Alcoholics Anonymous. Do it. Create your own deal. Create your own program. Actually, the truth of the matter is we do not need programs. In the beginning, yeah, we need help. We need connection. We need connectivity with other human beings. We need affirmation, motivation, inspiration. But this book gives us no tools, tips, and strategies. You got to go to counseling for that. So you go spend all the money, come back to Alcoholics Anonymous. They're going to say that if you don't stay in AA, you're going to drink and die, go to institutions or jails, but then you're going to go do a therapy group too. I don't know. On the bottom, it says, we have three little mottos which are appropriate. Here we go. First things first, you know what that is. Don't drink, don't think, and go to meetings. Live and let live. Live and let live. Did this just say live and let live? This whole chapter, the whole chapter to the wives and the family afterwards is not live and let live. It's you let the alcoholic live and you're responsible for his life. Easy does it. Yeah, easy does it. I'll tell you what, there is an easier, softer way, and it's not Alcoholics Anonymous. Unless you admit that it's a religion. You know, let's admit it. It's a religion, and you're okay with religion, and you don't mind giving your will and your life over to the care of God for the rest of your life. And if you don't, you'll go to hell here on earth. And if you do, you'll be in heaven on earth. But if you're in the Catholic religion or any other Christian religion, you'll if you die, you'll go to heaven if you do all these things. And it's the same kind of philosophy. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about. I wanted to finish up part 2, the family afterwards, indoctrination of the family disease into society. And we'll see you on the next rebound. We'll talk to you later, and we'll be doing another podcast. Hopefully we'll skip to the employees and go right to something else and then come back to it. Take care, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe and check out Anonymous Addiction, My Truth About AA, as Bobby sees it, private group. Bye-bye.